The sun woke up slowly. It painted the sky in soft colors. Orange and pink lights spilled onto the town of Aurelia. The town felt old and warm. Its streets were made of smooth cobblestones. They whispered stories of yesterday. Small buildings stood close together. Their walls were painted in happy shades of yellow, blue, and rose. Flower boxes hung from every window. Bright red geraniums and purple petunias greeted the morning. A gentle breeze moved through the narrow lanes. It carried the sweet smell of fresh bread from the local bakery. This town was a secret. It was a place where time moved differently. Aurelia was a feeling. It was the feeling of being free. People here did not rush. They walked with purpose, but not with hurry. They looked at each other. They smiled real smiles. Life was not about what you owned. It was about the moments you lived. It was about the connections you made. The air was filled with a quiet energy. It was the energy of creativity and peace. You could hear the distant sound of a guitar. You could hear the soft chatter of neighbors. It was a place to just be. A place to breathe. From a small apartment above a bookstore, a figure appeared. Her name was Elara. She was a singer, a dreamer. Her hair was a wild collection of braids and loose curls. Tiny, colorful threads were woven into it. She wore a flowing skirt made of mismatched fabrics. A simple, hand-painted top completed her look. Her style was her own. It was a map of her spirit. It told a story of freedom and art. She stepped onto her little balcony. She stretched her arms out to the morning sun. She felt the warmth on her skin. She smiled. Today was a new song. Elara looked down at the awakening streets. She saw the baker opening his shop. She saw an old man setting up his easel to paint the sunrise. This was her home. This was her tribe. She didn't need a big stage or a fancy microphone. Her stage was the town itself. Her audience was everyone who shared its magic. She took a deep breath. The air tasted of possibility. She grabbed a handful of small, bright wildflowers from a pot on her balcony. She was ready to join the day. She was ready to share her joy. The town square was alive. It was market day. The space buzzed with energy and color. Tents with striped awnings filled the square. They created a maze of wonders. Farmers stood proudly behind their tables. The tables were covered with fresh vegetables. Bright red tomatoes sat next to deep green spinach. The air smelled of earth and spices. It smelled of life itself. Laughter was the music of the market. It bounced off the old stone buildings. It mixed with the sounds of friendly bargaining. This was where the town's heart beat the loudest. Elara moved through the crowd like a melody. She did not just walk, she danced. Her feet barely seemed to touch the cobblestones. She greeted everyone with a genuine warmth. She stopped at a fruit stand. The vendor was an old woman with kind eyes and a wrinkled smile. Elara didn't just buy an apple. She asked about the woman's family. They laughed together, a shared moment of simple happiness. She moved on, her spirit as bright as the sun overhead. She was a part of this beautiful chaos. She was not a visitor. She was home. She saw a young boy crying. He had dropped his ice cream. Without a thought, Elara approached him. She knelt down to his level. She offered him one of the wildflowers from her pocket. The boy's tears stopped. He looked at the small, bright flower. A tiny smile appeared on his face. His mother looked at Elara with gratitude. It was a small act. But in Aurelia, small acts were everything. They were the threads that held the community together. They were more valuable than gold. Elara continued her journey through the market. She traded a song for a loaf of warm bread. She helped a potter stack his delicate creations. With every interaction, she left a little bit of light. She didn't have much money, but she was rich in other ways. She was rich in smiles, in stories, in connections. She moved with a purpose that was not about buying or selling. It was about sharing. It was about being present in each perfect, imperfect moment. The market was not just a place to get food. It was a place to feed the soul. The river flowed gently through the edge of town. It was a ribbon of silver under the afternoon sun. Tall willow trees lined its banks. Their branches swayed in the soft breeze. This was a place of quiet reflection. It was a place to escape the lively noise of the town center. Couples walked hand in hand along the promenade. Children skipped stones across the water's surface. The sound of their laughter echoed in the peaceful air. Artists set up their easels here. They tried to capture the light dancing on the water. It was a scene of pure, simple beauty. Elara found a spot on an old wooden bench. She watched the world go by. She pulled out a small, worn notebook and a pencil. Words came to her here. Melodies formed in her mind, inspired by the rhythm of the river. She wasn't trying to write a hit song. She was just trying to capture the feeling of this moment, the feeling of the sun on her face, the sound of the water's gentle song. Authenticity was her guide. Her art was a reflection of her true self. It was honest and raw. An elderly man sat down on the other end of the bench. He held a small carved wooden bird in his hands. He didn't speak at first. He just watched the river with her. Elara smiled at him. She offered him one of her wildflowers. He took it with a grateful nod. He then showed her the bird he had carved. They didn't need many words. They shared a comfortable silence, a mutual understanding. In a world that screamed for attention, they found connection in the quiet spaces in between. This was the rebellion of Aurelia. It was a rebellion against the rush. It was a rebellion against the need for more. Here, enough was a feast. A simple conversation was a treasure. The beauty was not in grand gestures. It was in the sunlight filtering through the willow leaves. It was in the shared silence on a riverside bench. It was in the freedom to just be. Elara closed her notebook. The song was not finished, but the feeling was complete. She felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. As evening approached, the town square transformed again. The market stalls were gone. In their place, musicians gathered. A man started playing a gentle rhythm on a hand drum. A woman joined in with a violin. Her music was full of passion and soul. Soon, an accordion player added his own voice to the mix. It was not planned. It was not a performance. It was a spontaneous celebration of sound. People began to gather around. They were drawn by the magnetic pull of the music. The square became an open-air dance floor. Elara felt the music in her bones. She walked into the center of the growing circle. She did not hesitate. She closed her eyes and began to sing. Her voice soared above the instruments. It was clear and strong. It was filled with all the joy and freedom she had felt throughout the day. She sang of the sun and the river. She sang of cobblestone streets and shared smiles. Her song was a love letter to Aurelia. It was a love letter to life itself. It was a story everyone there understood. The crowd moved with the music. Children twirled until they were dizzy. Old couples held each other close, swaying to the beat. Strangers became dance partners. There were no barriers here. There were no judgments. There was only the shared experience of this moment. They were a community connected by a rhythm. They were a symphony of souls, each one playing their own part. This was the real wealth. This was the joy that money could not buy. This was the beautiful truth of living an authentic life. The last notes of the song faded into the twilight sky. The moon began to rise, a soft pearl against the deep blue. For a moment there was silence. Then, the square erupted in applause and laughter. Elara opened her eyes. She saw the faces of her town. She saw friends and strangers, all united by her song. A feeling of deep gratitude filled her heart. She had nothing, and yet she had everything. She was just a girl with a song, but here in Aurelia, that was more than enough. It was magic.